How can you go on a business trip abroad when you're jobless? Aren't you ashamed of lying like that? Jake said, accusing me. It's not a lie. I really am going overseas for work, I replied, feeling hurt. Then we're divorcing. I can't stay with a liar, he said and walked out of the room. Jake thinks that because I work from home, I'm not really working or contributing, even though I do make a steady income and help with our expenses. A few days after I got back from my trip, I found divorce papers on my desk, already signed by Jake. I realized that if he couldn't understand me by now, there was no point in staying married. So I signed the papers and took them to the court. My name is Hannah Robinson, and I'm 29 years old. My husband, Jake, is 30. We started dating in college and got married when I was 25. We were more like best friends than lovers and always spoke our minds, which sometimes led to unexpected problems. For me, the trouble started when I shared my dream with Jake. I wanted to run an online store selling imported goods. I got the idea while working part-time at a boutique during college. I've always loved foreign designs and wanted to open a shop of my own someday. After graduating, I became a full-time employee at the boutique, but never gave up on my dream of having my own shop. I imagined being surrounded by beautiful foreign goods and sharing them with customers. My parents and friends encouraged me, saying, "Good luck, you'll succeed." I thought Jake would understand and support my dream, so one evening when he came home, I brought it up. "Hey Jake, you know I've been thinking about opening my own shop for a while, right?" I said, hoping he would listen. "Oh, not this again. It's not going to work if you just do it on a whim. You should quit," Jake said, dismissing my idea. "Why would you say that? It's not a whim. I've been thinking about this for a long time," I replied, trying to defend my dream. "Impossible is impossible. Life isn't as easy as you think," Jake shot back, his voice cold. "There's no need to be so harsh. Why do you always shut down my ideas right away?" I raised my voice without thinking, feeling frustrated that he was dismissing my thoughts so quickly. Jake looked at me with scorn and asked, "So, what's your plan if this business of yours doesn't take off?" "Well, I don't expect it to be successful right away," I admitted, "but I'll keep working hard." "And what about your income until then? We're splitting the rent and living expenses now. Are you telling me I have to cover everything?" he questioned, clearly annoyed. "No, that's not what I mean. I have some savings for the initial investment, and I'll make sure to pay my share of the rent," I explained. "Oh really? Then do as you please, but if it doesn't work out and you regret it, it's not my problem," Jake replied, still unsupportive. Every time I talked about starting my own business, Jake became irritable. The reason was simple. He was worried about my income becoming unstable. The import shop I worked at was in a great location with lots of customers, so my income was pretty high, almost the same as Jake's, who worked in an office. Sometimes I even made a bit more. Because of that, I often paid for our meals and contributed more to the rent. Jake couldn't stand the idea of my income decreasing. At first, he used to say things like, "Why rush? You should take your time and prepare," in a gentle tone. But now he didn't hesitate to discourage me. Despite his opposition, I didn't give up on my dream of owning my own shop. At 26, I finally started my online boutique. As Jake had predicted, it was tough in the beginning. Things didn't run smoothly, but over the years, I tried many different strategies. I used online platforms, promoted my shop on social media, and did everything I could to make it work. Thanks to my efforts, a year after going independent, I was able to secure a steady income. From there, I expanded my customer base and product range, and now my shop makes $300,000 a year. Since Jake was so against it, I never talked to him about the sales. I assumed he wouldn't be interested, and of course, he never asked. Even though my online shop was doing well, Jake never missed a chance to remind me about the rent and living expenses. I always gave him the money he asked for without arguing and kept our conversations about work as neutral as possible. But one day something interesting happened. I received a message from a customer on my shop's page. "I'm a regular customer of your shop. I was wondering if you could also start selling furniture along with the international knickknacks." I had gotten several requests like this before, but selling furniture online is tricky. Furniture is expensive, and you have to consider things like the material quality. Even though I had experience from working in an import shop, there were risks in selling furniture without seeing it in person first. So I decided to call my old boss from the import shop, Maggie, to discuss it. "Hello, is this the manager? It's Hannah. I need some advice." As soon as Maggie recognized my voice, she sounded genuinely happy. "Hannah, it's been a while. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know." "Well, I've had some requests to sell furniture in my online shop," I explained. "Furniture? That sounds challenging," Maggie replied. but I get what you're saying. You should definitely check out the items in person before selling them. Maggie had connections with overseas suppliers and offered to contact one of them for me. Thanks to our long-standing relationship, the supplier was happy to work with me, so I decided I would travel abroad to source the furniture myself. However, I couldn't just go without telling Jake, so that night I brought it up. Jake, would it be okay if I went away for about a week, maybe the week after next? I asked. A week? Why so long? He replied, sounding annoyed. Well, I might have to go abroad for work with Maggie from the shop I used to work at, I explained. Abroad? If you're going to lie, at least make it believable, Jake sneered. What? I'm not lying. You know I run an online shop, right? This trip is for sourcing items for the shop, I tried to clarify. Do you think I'll believe you if you make up a work-related excuse? Your little amateur shop can only go so far, he mocked. Believe what you want, but our sales are decent, and our customer base is growing. This trip is because of a customer's request, I responded, trying to stay calm. If you keep insisting, I won't let you go. You're practically a shut-in, and I'm not letting you leave home for a whole week, Jake said, stomping off to the bathroom with a beer in hand. A deep sigh escaped from my lips as I tried to process his reaction. I couldn't understand why Jake was being so harsh. Just because he didn't approve of my work, he acted like this. I knew I couldn't just go abroad without his permission, so I had to convince him somehow. Even though I was hesitant to continue the discussion, I couldn't ignore it. The next day, when Jake came home from work, I tried again. Jake, about what we talked about yesterday. I'm tired. I don't have time for your lies, he cut me off. I'm not lying. I really have to go abroad for work, I insisted. As I grabbed his arm, trying to make him understand, he looked at me with disdain. Oh really? Well, liars get divorced too, he said coldly. Divorced? What are you talking about? I asked, shocked. I can't stand liars, especially pointless people like you who always try to show off. You probably just want to use this as an excuse for a vacation. I bet your boss is a man too, right? Divorce it is, and I'll make sure to demand property division, he spat out and stormed out of the room. At that moment, a furious rage swelled up inside me. Who does he think he is? He looks down on me just because I work from home. He only wants to feel superior. Enough is enough. If he wants it that way, then I'll do what I want. I stopped asking for his permission and decided to go on my business trip abroad. 2 weeks later, as planned, I went overseas with Maggie. We went straight to our suppliers in the UK, where we checked out the furniture and accessories I would sell in my boutique. On the last day, I even took some time to go sightseeing with Maggie, enjoying a few fulfilling days. However, things weren't entirely smooth. My phone was flooded with messages from Jake. You didn't really go overseas, did you? Get back here right now. I'll forgive you if you return today. Time's up. We're getting divorced, you worthless woman. Each message made me more irritated, but I didn't reply. I knew that anything I said would only make things worse. When I got back from my trip, I planned to talk things over with Jake if he was open to it. I had a relaxing week abroad, said goodbye to Maggie at the airport, and headed home. Walking into the house felt strange. The lights were off, and there was no warm welcome. The living room was a mess with clothes scattered on the floor, dirty dishes, and leftover instant noodle containers in the sink. I noticed a piece of paper on the desk and picked it up. It was a note with divorce papers. The note read, "To the cheating, jobless woman, I'm ending things with you. Fill out the divorce papers immediately. If you want forgiveness, come to my parents' house and I might reconsider." Just reading the note, I could imagine Jake's smug expression. He probably thought I'd rush to apologize, but that was not my plan. I signed the divorce papers and took them straight to the state court. The divorce was finalized smoothly. Next, I went to the real estate agent to cancel my apartment lease. This apartment was where I lived before we got married, and since Jake had moved in with me, I decided there was no need for it now. After canceling the lease, I packed up my things and sent them to my parents' house. I arranged for Jake's belongings to be sent to his parents' place. Meanwhile, Jake kept sending me messages with ridiculous demands, telling me to come apologize by the end of the week. I ignored all of them. A week later, my phone started ringing non-stop. Annoyed, I finally answered, thinking this would be the last call. Jake immediately yelled at me, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" His loud voice startled me and I pulled the phone away from my ear. I decided to record the call just in case. I responded, "What's the big deal? There's nothing left to talk about." "Don't mess with me. All my stuff was sent to my parents' house. The apartment is empty," he shouted. I explained, "Well, I canceled the lease, so I had to remove everything." He was furious. "How dare you do that on your own?" "It's my apartment. I can do what I want," I replied. I wasn't worried about his anger anymore and spoke provocatively. Jake got even more irritated. Don't mess around. I don't care about the lease. Jake yelled at me on the phone, saying I had no right to cancel our apartment lease without discussing it with him. He was furious and wouldn't forgive me for what he saw as a betrayal. I decided to set the record straight. Sorry to burst your bubble, but we're not married anymore. I used the divorce papers you left behind. We're strangers now, so why should I keep paying for an apartment we no longer share? Jake was stunned and confused. He tried to argue, saying I'd be in trouble without him, but I was fed up. I told him, you've always looked down on me. I'm not jobless and I didn't cheat. I was traveling for work to better serve my clients. I've been working hard for the past 3 years and making much more than you realize. I don't want a marriage where you belittle me. Live your life on your own. I hung up, deleted his contact information, and cut off all communication. Jake eventually learned about my success through mutual friends and even visited my parents' house, but they turned him away. His own parents had kicked him out due to his behavior. Now Jake is living alone in an apartment near his work. I decided to stay with my parents for a while. Since I can work from anywhere, I'm planning to renovate their old house. My online store is doing well, and I'm free to travel whenever needed. I don't regret putting my dreams first, and I plan to continue working hard and showing appreciation to those who have supported me.